Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're diving deep into the vibrant and zany world of The Mask, the 1994 film that launched Jim Carrey to absolute stardom. This classic comedy is beloved by many, but even its biggest fans might be surprised by some of the secrets behind the scenes. From the film's dark comic book origins to casting surprises and hidden references, we've got it all. So let's jump into 20 things you never knew about The Mask. The Mask wasn't always the wacky comedy we know and love. It actually has roots in a much darker comic series. The film is based on the Dark Horse comics of the same name, written by John Arcudi and illustrated by Doug Mank. In the comics, Stanley Ipkiss dons the mask and becomes a murderous maniac, often wielding deadly weapons like axes instead of cartoonish mallets. According to screenwriter Mike Werb, the comic was very dark. Stanley ends up killing hundreds of people. The filmmakers chose to tone down the violence, giving us the more friendly version of the mask. Notably, Stanley's loyal dog Milo was created entirely for the film and doesn't appear in the comics. Director Chuck Russell originally envisioned adapting the gory comic into a horror movie inspired by his work on A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. However, after hiring Jim Carrey for the lead role, Russell decided to shift gears and transform the project into a comedy, taking full advantage of Carrey's comedic genius. When Russell suggested casting Jim Carrey, New Line Cinema thought he was out of his mind. At that time, Carrey was relatively unknown, earning just $450,000 for his role in The Mask. This was a bargain compared to the $7 million he would make just months later for Dumb and Dumber. New Line signed Carrey before the release of Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and that's what allowed them to secure him at a fraction of the cost. Carrey also came with an additional bargain. According to Chuck Russell, the studio probably saved a ton of money in special effects expenses thanks to the actor's elastic face. Russell has said, "The guys at ILM said they figured I saved about $1 million once I got Jim, just on what he was able to do versus what we intended to do originally." After working on the groundbreaking visual effects for Jurassic Park, the team at Industrial Light and Magic needed a change of pace. The Mask provided just that. Steve Williams, ILM's director of animation at the time, said, "The Mask was completely refreshing. What we could do with the dinosaurs was limited by the laws of the natural world, but The Mask was textbook cartooning. We got really excited watching the dailies. It was a lot more fun spending a year watching Jim than it was spending 2 years seeing how accurately we could make the butt of a giant reptile jiggle." Before her role in The Mask, Cameron Diaz was a successful model, but had never acted in a film. Director Chuck Russell saw something special in her and offered her the part of Tina Carlisle. Due to her lack of experience, though, Diaz had to audition multiple times, anywhere from 8 to 12 depending on who you ask, before finally landing the role. Initially, the character of Tina was meant to be a deceptive femme fatale. However, after casting Cameron Diaz, the filmmakers decided to rewrite the role, making Tina a genuinely good-hearted character. This change further lightened the tone of the film, steering it away even more from its darker origins. If you're enjoying the video, a subscribe to the channel would be smoking. Before Jim Carrey landed the role of Stanley Ipkiss, several other actors were considered for the part. Matthew Broderick, Nicolas Cage, Rick Moranis, Robin Williams and Martin Short were all on the shortlist. For the role of Tina, model Anna Nicole Smith was considered, but she instead chose to star in Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. The Cuban Pete dance number, where Carey's character performs a conga line in the streets, was nearly cut from the film. Director Russell envisioned The Mask as a sort of covert musical, but the producers weren't fans of the idea and felt the scene was too long. However, test audiences loved it, so the scene stayed and became one of the most memorable moments in the film. Cameron Diaz wasn't the one singing "Gee Baby, Ain't I Good to You?" Her vocals were dubbed by professional singer Susan Boyd, as Diaz isn't much of a songbird herself. Jim Carrey's transformation into the titular Mask wasn't as simple as just slapping on some green paint. The process took about 4 hours each day in the makeup chair to achieve the character's iconic look. This included extensive prosthetics to give Carrey his exaggerated features. The oversized cartoonish teeth worn by Jim Carrey as the mask were originally meant only for silent scenes. The filmmakers assumed it would be too difficult for Carrey to speak with them in. However, Carrey surprised everyone by learning to talk with the teeth in, adding to the character's cartoonish appeal. Milo, Stanley Ipkiss's dog, wasn't always the obedient sidekick you see on screen. In the scene where Stanley tries to stash money in a closet using a frisbee, Milo wasn't supposed to interfere. However, when the dog grabbed onto the frisbee, Jim Carrey improvised, going along with it, and the moment made it into the final cut. Eagle-eyed fans might recognise the garage where Stanley Ipkiss retrieves his car. It's the same firehouse used in Ghostbusters, which came out in 1984, exactly 10 years before The Mask. The Mask is packed with references to pop culture, particularly Looney Tunes, but there are also some more obscure nods, like the line, "That's his spicy meatball," which references a famous Alka-Seltzer commercial. Another is the take on Sally Field's Oscar speech where she said, "You like me, you really, really like me," with Carrey exclaiming, "You love me, you really love me," while holding a fake Oscar statue. The Mask received several accolades, including a nomination for Best Visual Effects at the Academy Awards, though it lost out to Forrest Gump. Jim Carrey also earned a Golden Globe nomination for his performance, but he was simultaneously nominated for a Razzie as Worst New Star, a dubious honour that didn't affect his skyrocketing career. In an interview, Jim Carrey revealed that his portrayal of Stanley Ipkiss was inspired by his father, whom he described as being like a cartoon character. Carrey drew from his father's exaggerated mannerisms to create the outlandish persona of the Mask. The bright yellow zoot suit worn by Jim Carrey is a nod to his first ever stand-up performance at Yuk Yuk's Comedy Club, where he wore a yellow polyester suit handmade by his mother. The outfit in The Mask pays homage to that early career milestone, even though that first show was a disaster. The Coco Bongo Club featured in The Mask is not just a fictional place, there's a real Coco Bongo Club in Mexico. The club is known for its extravagant Las Vegas-style shows and is a popular destination for tourists and fans of the film. Jim Carrey was initially set to star in a sequel to The Mask, with New Line Cinema offering him up to $10 million. But the sequel never materialised with Carrey, and the studio went ahead with Son of the Mask in 2005, starring Jamie Kennedy. The sequel was a commercial flop and is widely regarded as one of the worst sequels ever made. In 2020, Carrey mentioned he'd consider a sequel only if a crazy visionary filmmaker was involved. Given its cartoonish style, it's no surprise that The Mask inspired an animated series. The Mask animated series aired 54 episodes from 95 to 97. Interestingly, the final episode featured a crossover with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, another cartoon based on a Jim Carrey movie. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about The Mask. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.